Hey everybody, Steve Scott, and we're going to continue on with some of our studying of various aspects of judo, jiu-jitsu, sambo, any of the grappling arts, fighting sports in our Kaizen program, and that's the training program that I'm doing online with quite a number of people. If you are interested in participating, it is free. I'm not trying to sell or peddle anything. I just want to help people learn more about judo, jiu-jitsu, sambo, and the wide variety of martial arts we study in the world, primarily Japanese martial arts, and also the Russian, so formerly Soviet sambo approach. That's what the program is about, and it's called Kaizen. Um, and we're going to be talking today about, by the way, welcome to those of you who are on YouTube. We will be publishing all our Kaizen stuff on the YouTube as well, our YouTube channels. Welcome, Matt, Steve Scott, and maybe on some of our other formats in maybe our websites, or people may want to put this on their Facebook, whatever it may be. You're welcome to do that. I'm not making any money or getting any riches off this. I just want to help coach and help spread the word on realistic, actual training and good information. That's what this whole Kaizen program is about. It's an online training program. Um, I don't claim I know everything, but I do have 50 years of experience in the grappling arts, the grappling sports, primarily the judo and sambo, jiu-jitsu. So I try to pass on any information or knowledge I have to others. So that being said, we're going to talk a little bit here. I'm keep looking down at my notes. We're going to talk. Today's subject is an interesting subject to me called Kobo Ichi. Kobo Ichi. The phrase means the three separate words, really. Kobo is two words, attack and defense. There are a number of ways of saying attack and defense in the Japanese language, but Kobo is one of them. And Ichi is one or singular. And what this phrase implies is attack and defense are the same thing. They're a fluid thing going back and forth. Okay? If you understand that concept of Kobo Ichi, you will do any fighting sport better. We say the best defense is an offense. That may be true, and it is true to a good degree, because when you do go on a defensive mode and you have to defend yourself, and we just don't all win all the time, we have to do some defensive work. We will then immediately, as soon as possible, go into an offensive mode. Sometimes we also go into a kind of a holding pattern, and that's what we in the West call kind of a scramble. When there's no real control, but we're no longer defending. We're trying to get to the point where we can attack. So the concept of Kobo Ichi is a very interesting concept, and if you understand it, you will do any martial art or any fighting sport better. Another point in Kobo Ichi is there is a point that it is the most opportune time to attack, and that is what the Japanese called debana, debana, and that's kind of like the sweet spot in time. That's the close way we can have in the English language, but it is the opportune time to strike. And so, if you understand that that's also part of the concept of Kobo Ichi, of attack and defense are the same thing, you will be more successful. Let's look at how we can apply Kobo Ichi. By the way, when I first heard of this concept, I was actually reading one of Don Draeger's books, and he mentioned it. And a number of years ago, one of his early books, I don't recall which one, he's written quite a number of great books, Don Draeger. Especially, I always liked him for his history of and his analysis of the Japanese fighting arts. And he was primarily a judo man who branched off into a variety of the other, not just Japanese, but Asian fighting arts. And he's written volumes and many great books on different subjects along that line. So it was from Don Draeger that I first learned the concept of Kobo Ichi, and I asked people about it. Not many people had heard of it in judo. Um, I knew a lot of people in jujitsu. Nobody really heard about it much in jujitsu. But I started to look into it more and more in different areas and tried to find all I could about it and reading a lot more about what Don Draeger had to say about it and then trying to put 2 plus 2 and hopefully it equals 4. Does it come up to 3? Does it come up to 5? Hopefully it makes sense. And that's what Kobo Ichi, that's how I kind of developed more and more understanding of Kobo Ichi. And so we understand this. And by the way, this goes to the heart of the matter as far as the Japanese terminology. I think it's very important we learn Japanese terminology if we practice a Japanese fighting sport. Um, the Japanese developed judo, initially jujitsu or jujutsu, aikido, kendo, the various martial disciplines of Japan. Those of us who practice it here in the West in any of these disciplines, I think we need to know the Japanese terminology. We don't have to speak Japanese fluently. I certainly don't. However, I spent a long time studying the Japanese language and what the phrases we use in Japanese and in judo mean. Um, and Kobo Ichi is certainly one of those phrases. Certainly one of those phrases. So the concept of Kobo Ichi is important to know. It's attack and defense. They're fundamentally the same thing. Okay, so in practical terms, I'm attacking and my opponent blocks it or stops it somehow, and he initiates his own attack. Well, now I'm on the defense, and it's a give and take. The entire fight's a give and take. No one is always on the attack. Very rarely, you may see in some cases someone is totally on the attack, the other person is totally on the defense. That's rare because no matter who goes into a fight, it is a fight. Both people want to win, so they're going to do the best they can to win. So there's this interaction, this play back and forth of attack, defense, attack, defense. It's a whole sequence in the fighting, in the actual fighting, what's going on in a fight. So that's what Kobo Ichi is. So if you understand that if you train in the gym or the dojo on the mat, in the ring, whatever the cage, whatever sport you may be, training for, or even in self-defense, if you understand that you can attack and you may have to defend, do so quickly, do so enough to neutralize, control a situation, get back in control, and go on the offense again, and take advantage of your opponent. Again, we're fighting. This isn't, we're not being kumbaya. Let's make friends with each other. If you're studying a fighting sport, or if you're learning this for self-defense, um, the idea is to win. I mean, that's it. I mean, now we don't cheat. One of these videos we're going to do here, we're going to talk about sportsmanship quite a bit. But right now, let's focus in on the concept of winning. And Kobo Ichi is a very efficient way of getting that thing done, winning the fight. Okay. So getting back to what it really means, it's attack and defense back and forth. And I mentioned earlier there was a thing called debana, and it's the right point, the right time to make an attack. Okay, it could be it's the best opportune time is what it really means. It could also mean the most opportune time to defend against a move or a series of attacks by your opponent. You're doing the right thing at the right time. That's what debana is. And if you understand how to use that skill of using the right thing at the right time, now we're getting into a whole area of functional training to really win functional skills, functional tactics in winning the fight. Okay. And again, understand what we're talking about is a construct or a concept that isn't good or bad. We're going to use it for our own purposes. Okay. So Kobo Ichi could be used by bad guys and laying in wait at the opportune time to attack debana at opportune time to make their attack and do something bad. It could also be good guys doing it to win when necessary or do what they need to do when necessary. So it has no relevance in terms of good or bad, right or wrong. It is just what it is. And it's a concept, construct of knowing how to fight efficiently, Kobo Ichi. So again, we're getting back to the whole concept, which is one of my principal things that I coach, is controlling the situation, controlling your opponent, controlling yourself so that you can better control the situation, control the opportunity, create the opportunity. That's what Kobo Ichi is. It's a concept of controlling to the best of your ability. And again, your ability hopefully is better than your opponent's. Uh, and so you have to train for that to make sure it's that way most of the time, if not all the time. But Koboichi is learning to control a situation, take back control of the situation when you lose that control, and even if you have to do something to neutralize. And there's that third phase in there between aggressive action and defensive action. There is that neutral time when you just may have to, like, as I say to my guys, there are some moves that we call get out of trouble moves. Well, you may have that situation, such as gripping or pummeling. Like in judo, we use gripping quite a bit with a jacket. Sambo, we use gripping quite a bit with the jacket and the kurtka, the belt. Um, Wrestlers, grapplers, no-gi grapplers, catch wrestlers, they pummel. They, do hand and arm wrestling, hand and arm fighting. The better you can control those situations, um, in Koboichi, in the concept of Koboichi, you can neutralize the situation if you're in trouble and get back where you can take control back. Okay. So anyway, I've rambled on quite a bit about the concept of Koboichi, and I've tried to explain what it is. It's Kobo, attack, defense, Ichi, one attack are one and the same. So what I would say is, and another old phrase, which is very rarely used, is called Kobo Rinshu. Kobo Rinshu, attack, defense, practice. Rinshu means practice. So I would say drill a lot, drill situational drills, drill skill drills. We're going to have a video on nothing but drilling here at some point in the future. And we're going to be talking about situational drills and skill drills and, drilling on tactics and things like that. Well, Koboichi, if you understand it, you will get more out of your drill training when you're training in the gym or on the dojo or on the mat, of how to be more efficient in what you're doing. So, randori, or free practice, going alive, rolling, is a great example of training in Kobo Rinshu, attack, defense, practice. You're sometimes on the defense, sometimes on the offense. You're always trying to take back control of your opponent. So randori is a good drill in that sense. And when we talk about randori, again, that will be the subject of another video. Randori should be structured, and not just beat the hell out of somebody else. Okay, not just pick on the smallest guy in the gym or the weakest guy or a guy you can whip all the time. Or even the other extreme, don't just fight with people who will beat you up. You've got to have a good variety of people. Well, that's the idea of training in randori efficiently. Again, there are no winners or losers in randori. It's just training. But that aside, you are training in the concept of Koboichi when you do good randori, and randori with a purpose. Okay, so one of your purposes in randori should be to, as often as possible, if you have to go on the defense, and by the way, have a good aggressive defense, because a good aggressive defense leads to offense. So if your opponent is, you're doing judo, say, or sambo, and your opponent attacks you with a forward throw, you block it, you hip cut, you stop, you neutralize, stop his movement, you kill his movement, and then you immediately take back control. And if you can't take back control, if he continues his attack, try to neutralize the situation. Okay, so that's what Koboichi is. Koboichi is, and in ground fighting is the same thing. If your opponent initially takes control of the situation, you try to do a get out of trouble move. Try to at least neutralize the situation, get into a scramble where it's 50-50, or if not, take back the situation completely, immediately. So that's the idea of Koboichi. Maybe I've made too much of it, but I don't think I can make too much of Koboichi. If we understand this concept, and not enough people talk about it, so that's the reason I'm doing this video, is so you will have a better concept and use this concept. Name it, talk about it. If you're a coach, tell your students about Koboichi, and it's attack and defense are the same thing. That's really what it is. And you always want to achieve that opportune moment, that debana, the time when you hit the strike is hit it now. The striking is now is the opportune time to boom, make that move. And we see that in any phase of life, whether it's business, politics, sport, fighting, anything, there is the right time to do the right thing. And that's what Debana is. And it's all part of Kobo Ichi. But again, it's all also the overarching, the overriding concept here is of controlling the situation. And anybody who studied with me or heard me talk at any length, I have a phrase that I believe for some time: control the position, get the submission. Control the situation as best you can. Try to control it totally. Dominate your opponent. Impose your will on your opponent, and then go on to beat him. That's the fundamental idea of getting Kobo Ichi done. Okay, turn the attack of the defense to the attack, and if not, at least neutralize it, and then go on the attack. But this concept of offense, defense are one and the same. That's Kobo Ichi. So I hope I made it a little bit clear. I hope I at least introduced you to this idea and add this phase of this concept, this philosophy, this construct, a mental construct, into your training, into your fighting. And anybody who says they're just totally 100% offense, no, don't believe them. It's not. You're not totally 100% offense all the time. They have to have a good share of both offense, defense, but always try to turn it to your advantage. Always, gain the advantage over your opponent. That's what the concept of Kobo Ichi is about. So anyway, thanks for listening. And again, we'll be talking about other subjects down the line. So that's the concept of Kobo Ichi. Thanks a lot.